Once upon a time, there were two bears, one white and the other brown, who grew up together in a playland in the far north. But this story is not a fairy tale. It's the true story of little Ahpun and Oreo, a polar bear and a brown bear who became big best friends and playmates. It would never happen in the wild, but it happened here at the Alaska Zoo in Anchorage, Alaska. When Ahpun arrived in early spring of 1998, she was the queen of the snow pile. Her name, Ahpun, is an Inupiaq Eskimo word meaning snow. This orphan polar bear cub, rescued from near Point Lay, Alaska, was immediately the darling of the Alaska Zoo. Right now, it's just about lunchtime, and Ahpun definitely lets everyone know she's hungry.
That's it. Oh, milk.
I put it on level ground.
It's milk.
We're starting to give her a little bit of solid. She's getting right now, she's drinking her milk, and then we're putting 2 ounces of fish, either halibut or salmon, in with it. We dice it up in little cubes. And then every once a day, her first morning feeding, she gets a teaspoon of cod liver oil added to it. And that's cod liver oil. And that's for nutrition. It's vitamins and minerals and that.
Without a mother to feed and care for her, it's up to the zookeepers like Smitty to keep her company and to be her playmate.
Sometimes she gets mad, but you gotta pick her up like this without her getting really upset. Boy, you're all pudgy. I'll bet you. She's gained, a good 8 pounds since she's been here. She's been here 2 weeks now. And, I'm just picking her up. And the last time I weighed her, I'd say she's about 38 pounds, and she feels about 40 there, so best guess.
You would never want to pick up or play with a wild bear cub. But at the zoo, the caregivers need to give her the kind of attention a mother bear would give her cubs in the wild.
In a much better mood than yesterday.
At first, it looked like Ahpun would grow up alone. She has lots of toys and lots of love from people taking care of her, but no brothers or sisters or bear cub friends. Then came Oreo. Oreo is also an orphan. Like many brown bear cubs, she has a collar of white fur around her neck. A little girl said she looked like an Oreo cookie, and that's been her name ever since. Oreo must be wondering about that bigger white bear. And Ahpun, well, she's obviously curious too. While Oreo gets adjusted to the zoo and to her new roommate, she has to be content to watch the fun and games on the other side of the fence. After 10 days apart, the bears finally get to play together. Ahpun has the upper paw at first, but Oreo is growing too, and now it's Ahpun being chased. This complaining must mean one thing. Ahpun is hungry. At mealtime, the bears literally climb the walls. In bear talk, that means, stay away from my food. For safety's sake, Ahpun and Oreo are kept apart at mealtime. Hungry bears can be dangerous and harmful to each other. But zoo curator Pat Lampe stays with Ahpun as she devours a meal of polar bear nuggets, cream, and fish. It's right after mealtime that Ahpun and Oreo are often the most playful. They always draw a crowd to watch Playtime with Ahpun and Oreo and Pat.
Taking care of the bear cubs has really been a highlight in the past 12 years that I've been here. Being able to raise two bear cubs of different species together, watch them grow and develop, see the differences between the species. This has just been a real joy for me and everybody else that's been here. She likes the playing and the wrestling, and that's just typical brown bear behavior, playing and wrestling with siblings.
While brown bears and polar bears genetically have a lot in common, they're a lot different too. Polar bears are marine mammals who live on the Arctic sea ice and take naturally to the water. Ahpun loves to play in the pool, with or without Oreo. Oreo has the advantage on the land. She seems to have better coordination. Balancing a ball is easy. Ahpun and Oreo have very different personalities. Ahpun seems more reserved, while Oreo wants to play, and right now, Pat is her wrestling partner.
Got to be a routine that we were doing twice a day, and when I was ready to leave the exhibit, in order to get far enough away from her so I can get through the door, I plop her in the pool. For about the past week, I haven't been able to. She kind of has learned a few techniques on how to not let me get a hold of her. She's much stronger and bigger, of course, than when we started doing it. She was starting when I get behind her and get underneath her front arms, she would do a forward somersault right out of my grip. And today was one where she was just kind of had her front paws up on the next tier and presented herself in a posture that I could get a hold of her, so in she went.
When the first snows of winter came, Ahpun and Oreo kept the same fun schedule. That meant that Oreo decided not to hibernate. While polar bears do not hibernate, brown bears typically take a long winter's nap. But Oreo doesn't really have a reason to sleep. With Ahpun by her side, there's a lot of activity, and she has all the food she needs. So the fun and games continue all winter. Ahpun and Oreo are now yearlings. You can see how big Oreo is. The steady diet and lots of exercise has made her a lot bigger than yearling bear cubs in the wild. As much as he might want to, Pat knows that it's no longer safe to wrestle this teddy bear.
I miss going in with them, but I'd be the one getting thrown in the pool now. Yeah. That's only about half her ton. The dynamics of the duo's relationship changes from time to time. Oreo is more what I call the antagonist. She kind of starts a lot of the roughhouse play. The other development, the better balance, more agility of the brown bear keeps coming out. The climbing abilities of her are much more so than the polar bear. The aquatic nature of the polar bear is really coming out with the larger tank that we have. She's constantly in it, diving, going underwater. They both get in there and play at times. So the brown bear doesn't ever put her head underwater. She'll put it in the stream flowing into the pool, but won't put her head underwater. And when they both get in there and play, the brown bear will sit there and swat at the top of the water like going for salmon, and the polar bear will submarine and get her from underneath the surface. So the difference of the two species is really coming out.
Ahpun is not happy. For the first time in over a year, she has been separated from Oreo and put in a small cage as well. What she doesn't know is that today is moving day. Both bears are being moved to the Alaska Zoo's brand new polar bear exhibit. It's a $2 million home with a swimming pool. But Ahpun only knows that something's up, and it makes her nervous. Since she came to the zoo, she's grown from 31 pounds to a solid 389 pounds.
Hold up. Do you undo the deadbolt? Yep, it's open.
As she cautiously enters her new home, she has to be wondering, where's Oreo? Not to worry, Oreo is on her way. She came to the zoo weighing 25 pounds, but now she's a healthy 325 pounds. Both bears may weigh 800 pounds or more when they're fully grown. The first order of business in their new home was simply exploring the environment. Things smell different here, look different, and they have different zoo neighbors. Like anybody moving into a new neighborhood or going to a new school, it takes a lot of getting used to. But Ahpun and Oreo seem to adjust right away. Ahpun especially seems to love their new 70,000-gallon swimming pool. Not long after moving in, the bear mates had an altogether new experience. They were sharing their pool with animals they'd never seen before, with salmon. It's part of an educational experiment. The zoo hoped to use the pool to educate people about salmon, while at the same time introduce a new stimulus to the bears. Is this a good idea? In the wild, brown bears eat salmon. But Oreo is not sure what to make of the uninvited guests. She even seems to be frightened. A bear frightened of salmon? As for Ahpun, the fish in the pool means only one thing. It's time to go fishing. Ahpun has never caught a fish or any other live animal in her life, but her instincts kicked right in, and now she has a mouthful of fresh salmon. The next question? What to do with it?
Where's my fish?
Ahpun decides that catching is so much fun, she'll just release the salmon and try again.
Hey, George, bring your family.
Oreo is still cautious and not quite sure what to make of the fish.
Two of the three salmon put in didn't survive too long, less than an hour, with Ahpun's ability to dive after the salmon and catch them. But I would say it was a success in the part that it was definitely interesting for the bears, and the people out front really seemed to enjoy it. I didn't hear too many negative comments on the fact, and getting to see the bears' natural instincts kick into gear.
The Alaska Zoo is the only zoo in North America where a polar bear and brown bear are living together. This is doubly unique because brown bear exhibits usually don't have large pools with underwater viewing. Visitors to the Alaska Zoo are in for a real treat.
Knowing her personally and watch her grow up, it's really a lot of fun to watch her swim and learn more things and dive more and let more of her nature take over. They're so graceful underwater. It's just fun to watch, the way the hair just flows in the water and how they use their front feet mostly for swimming and the back ones just kind of trail behind and use them as rudders. They play together out there. The brown bear doesn't go underwater very much. Doesn't put her head, sticks her face underwater, but doesn't go completely underwater. But we also play real gently. There's not a lot of pushing or shoving. Doesn't look like one's in a panic that the other one's trying to climb up on it or anything. They play together really well. And Oreo growing up, she's always been a little bit of a water bear. She's always liked the water almost as much as a polar bear. Not quite as graceful as Ahpun, but she gets the job done. Maybe she'll start taking some diving lessons from Ahpun. Oreo usually backs into the pool, whereas Ahpun will dive in head first. A lot of times Ahpun will then submerge and then come up underneath Oreo. Seems like whatever Oreo gets interested in, Ahpun has to come over and see if it's something she might be interested in too. It's kind of interesting to see the bottoms of the feet of the two different species too. The continuous pads of the brown bear and separated pads on the polar. You can both of them really use their front paws when they swim. They really spread out their paws to get maximum thrust out of each stroke.
So now you know the story of Ahpun and Oreo, a polar bear and a brown bear who became best friends and playmates at the Alaska Zoo. Of course, they'll live happily ever after.